Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae. Happy Sunday to you. And I'm here with a Sunday school session message for you. So I hope you're doing well today. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I don't have a lot to share today, but I feel like for the most part, Sunday school sessions so far come with a bit of a warning, listen at your own discretion. It's not really too triggering, I don't think, today, but some aspects are, but not too much. But for the most part, I feel guided to dig a little into, well, actually what I've called this is more like a download dump. So it's just me kind of releasing some energies that come up, particularly today by way of the entertainment industry, that are ultimately just downloads that have filtered through, maybe perhaps even through the week. Things come to me all the time, and I don't always have the inkling to write them down as I probably should. And today I felt guided to just jot some things down, very free-handedly, and to share them accordingly. So it's not as much structure as maybe perhaps the first and second session has been, but I think it's information, that usually if it's coming up for me to share, then there's a reason and a season for it. So hear ye it. Whomever has an ear to hear, let it be so. So I titled this, "Are You Not Entertained?" And we know that saying from the classic movie Gladiator, "Are you not entertained?" And that's the energy here today in so many ways and shapes and forms. But listen up and, see how it connects if it does. The entertainment industry is under judgment. Energy harvesting has been the secret operation supporting the underbelly of the industry by way of secret societies of stars, executives, and corporations. Harvesting includes, but is not limited to, stealing creative ideas and/or intellectual property and repurposing them on or with certified celebrities. Ideas that circulate via social media are particularly vulnerable for poaching. Humans, specifically women and children, but also men, are trafficked for entertainment and rituals that infuse power to dominant participants. While the vulnerable targets are treated as disposable objects, desecrated and discarded, sometimes to some irreversible demise. Humans are also being trafficked for physical body parts. Celebs and higher powers stake claims to human targets for the purposes of securing something like a living insurance policy, where parts are purchased in case of or in the event of the purchaser's physical misfortune, i.e., accident or illness, for themselves or as a security measure for extended family, immediate or extended family. The rapid and sudden physical breakdowns in the celebrity world is largely due to the karmic backlash of these living policies. Because of the cosmic climate change, these policies are becoming null and void. Bodies that are receiving these so-called body parts or energetic transfers are rejecting the organs and the organic treatments or energetic exchanges. Human targets are outliving their contract policies, even amidst contracted assassinations in spirit and in truth. Policyholders are losing the lucrativity, I don't even know if that's the word, but that's what came up, i.e. the financial support to maintain policies by way of their previous abilities to effortlessly pay to play. Simply put, key players don't have the excess of money and power so easily on hand to maintain the terms of the policies by way of dark power purchases, spell work, dark interference, magic, those things of the sort, dark energetic exchanges or bartering, due to the fact that there's a lack of influence now, a declining influence, so that they don't have much that they can offer to exchange or barter because the influence is depleted. And on account of the flow of resources shifting from the monopoly of the establishments into the control of the individuals. Less energies are chained to the industry contracts and are moving into sovereign star status. So there is a great decline in gross revenue since there's a drastic decrease in product inventory, i.e. people to sell. Industry establishments and corporations are trying to diversify their investments into independent markets like YouTube, IG, TikTok, etc., but their efforts were too long delayed by their insistence to maintain old world power dynamics. They're not able to catch up with the rapid evolution of the markets by way of the ascension of the human spirit. Hence why the powers that be are the powers that were. They don't hold the same power, influence, or money that they once did. Also, hence why said insurances that were invested in are defaulting and or expired altogether. This material dis-ease is ultimately causing an energetic dis-ease in so-called powers who stake their value in these elements, these material elements. Subsequently, this is what is causing physical dis-ease to manifest in the body, which is greatly contributive to the massive and rapid decline in the celebrity community. The powers that were are desperate to find new hosts for harvests, i.e. in the independent forums aforementioned, for their own preservation and survival. Too little too late, though, are their efforts by way of their own self-sabotage by pride and ego. They thought they had the handle on control and power as long as people crave celebrity status through the conventions of societal standards. But the people are awakening to the true force of their own star power, which is more potent and sustainable and satisfying than celebrity status. Other sinister tactics by the establishments, corporations, and powers that were have been efforts to recoup financial losses and the impending inevitable declines of such by contracting policies on existing celebrities who are holding on with dear life to their inflated statuses. This is also the root of celebrity sacrifices that have been amidst. It's the last-ditch effort for the establishments to liquidate their assets by preying on the demise of celebrities mentally, physically, and spiritually, since there's not as much new inventory coming down the assembly line. Tactics include, but are not limited to, blackmail, extortion, seizure of assets, unjust litigation, setup for social and actual assassination, larceny of assets and intellectual properties, insurance fraud, forming payouts by untimely demises, i.e. contract kills, withholding revenue returns, i.e. royalties, rightfully due to artists and or estates and or their surviving legacies through unjust contract loopholes and outright lies. The celebrity company as it remains is an company? The celebrity, maybe community? I don't know what I meant there. As it remains is an illusion. It's an actual death trap for those in it now and for unsuspecting new recruits, which thankfully are much farther and fewer between now. What's left of any of it is just one big spirit bank. Like a sperm bank, but it's a spirit bank, if you catch my drift. The powers that were move the reserves, i.e. current celebrities, around to fund personal investments and to attract or lure in as many new customers as possible with the fainting flicker of glitz and glam. Meanwhile, the entire industry is crumbling from the inside out. Justice by way of karma will commence as everyone gets their just desserts, good, bad, or indifferent. When celebs are fully awakened to the injustices incurred and take their power back and atone for their conscious contributions to the system, which will inevitably bring the establishment and controlling corporations down to their financial knees. This will disable them from making new investments that will continue to spread capital dis-ease throughout sovereign societies and among such spirits. The precursor of this is evident in the Hollywood strike. The issue, though, is that the commodities are demanding to be put back on the shelf where their price points are forged, fixed, and exploited. A liberal response would be for the talent to break from the corporations altogether and establish themselves as independent contractors and or sovereign conglomerates of creativity. They can then determine their own creative endeavors and or set the price and standards by which then the corporations would have to buy into in order to have any product or content at all to stock their shelves. It's time to flip the script. Entertainment is the one of 5 pillars by which all of the other 4 pillars operate obstructively. While business, education, religion, and politics rob the masses of pure righteousness, entertainment stages a diversion while it also picks our pockets down to the lint, in spirit and in truth. But the veil or the curtain is being lifted, making it much harder for any of these factions to fully operate in the covert way that they once had. All the world is a stage, and corruption is the spotlight, and corruption is in the spotlight, front and center. The consideration now is a matter of which role you choose to play in the production, if any at all. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that. That's all I have to say about that today. Very short and sweet. I don't even think I'll belabor the point. I was going to circle back around to my crimes against humanity just to refresh your mind, because these are some of the things that have happened and are happening in the entertainment industry, but certainly not limited to that pillar of our establishment. Definitely in all 5 pillars, you can see some of these atrocities that are happening. Some of the ones that I would call out would definitely be the energy and organ harvesting and human trafficking. And that's been happening by not just for the purposes of physical gain or restoration, but it's also just been pure entertainment among rich men, wealthy men that don't have anything better to do but assert their power and abuse their power. So when you have so much money that you don't know what to do with it, life becomes a game when you don't have any attachment to a spiritual purpose, to your affluence. And unfortunately, the less fortunate, the unassuming have fallen victim, particularly women and children, but again, not limited to these reindeer games as they are, literally people fighting over who reigns and who has more power or authority over the other. And it's just, like I said, it's really just for their own personal entertainment and power prowess. Who can be the most powerful? Who can cause the most deterioration and detriment, desecration to masses unassuming and less fortunate than them? Who can establish themselves as the most prominent force in whatever regard that the competition calls for. And it literally is like a dick measuring contest in some regards. And some feminines are included in that as well, but are more exploited than they actually are participant in. But for the most part, to me, that's one of the biggest atrocities, is just how people are being desecrated in very inhumane ways, just for the purposes of someone else's amusement. not to mention, we can get into the idea of it being for financial gain and for, wealth purposes or some establishment of power that would have influence. That makes a little bit more sense because not that it really does. None of it makes sense, but that there's an exchange rate there that, has, it's logical, for the most part. Not that it makes sense or that it should be, but there's a reasoning there. But when it's just men that just want to play games on women and children to assert their own authority and power, literally just to prove themselves to themselves, and when it all comes down to it, I think that's when it really started to go over the line. And that's why Spirit particularly is, avenging those that have been vulnerable to those antics by shifting the power dynamics in the industry as it is now. And not to mention, of course, the insurance policy frauds that are happening, and more so on those that are unsuspecting on the outside of the industry because those people aren't bound by contracts. It's one thing for there to be this cross-pollination of corruption between the contractors and the contractees, i.e. the establishment, corporations, executives, and the celebrities or stars or talent. You kind of sign your name on the dotted line in some regard to be ravaged, however the system sees fit. It's kind of like what you're getting into in some way, shape, and form. And when you're committing yourself to that system, you almost kind of have to take the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes along with it. But that's a contract. That's an agreement that one commits to intentionally and consciously. Even though we know that there's corruption even underlying in that, where executives make, they have people in their pockets, judges and things of sorts that they can pay off to make things, legalities go in their favor, or to hide hidden terms into jargon that a person may not even truly understand as to what they're entitled to and what they're not, what they're beholden to and what they're not. All of that, yes, true indeed happens. But again, when you enter that world, that corrupted world, you become a conscious and willing participant of whatever the outcome may be. Now, because there's been some dissension and lack of gain in that world as it is before, it's been able to pretty much, the money's been refiltering itself by way of hot commodities and new commodities constantly coming through that revolving door and filtering their way back out. But as I said, the shift is changing where people are not really scratching and clawing to be celebrities by conventional standards anymore. Yeah, people want to be famous, but there are other ways to be famous, to be known, to be seen, to be recognized, even to be successful than through the conventions that were established for us to do so anymore. So it kind of like shifted that revenue flow as it was coming in, like a flood. Even, the handwriting's been on the wall for years, even by way of the record industry. Back not too long ago, just a couple decades ago in the 90s, was flowing. Cash was just pouring in. You could rake it in. And people didn't see the handwriting on the walls that musical streaming sites and, pirating and things such as that would diminish the record industry so that it wouldn't be as lucrative as it once was. Some people saw it, but some people didn't, and they continued to proceed as if the money would last forever, the power, the influence would last forever. And then, of course, they recouped and found different ways to rake it in, but it's been more energetic harvesting than it has been financial, like literally catching people up in these contracts that you're ultimately signing your entire life away, so that everything that you do put your hands on or make or create, somehow they have some access to it, even until in perpetuity in some regards, like until you die in ways where people are just that desperate to have that jump start into celebrity, that they sign their lives, ultimately forge a deal with the devil to their own demise. Even that's fallen away. People are not taking the bait anymore. Yet another, it's like the veil keeps, the curtain or veil, however you want to call it, keeps raising up slowly but surely, and now it's like almost fully pulled away at this point. There's still a few trickles here and there, but for the most part, the industry ain't industrying no more. And that's why there's this desperate last ditch effort to try to rake up all they can from those that are still on the inside, while still trying to like harvest it's like literally picking up the morsels that they can by way of the more sovereign industries that I talked about, the more independent places to express your talent, and by way of those that may trickle in here or there and become a breakout star of some sort, and they're putting their money behind energies that don't even, that more or less aren't even here to have longevity anymore. Like longevity stardom is not the sure shot investment. They're picking up, is a reason why, they're picking kids to prop up, especially particularly in the music industry, where as soon as they get you in there, then not to mention the mental and physical and spiritual abuse that happens on the inside, in very covert ways that will diminish your vitality to damn near nothing, just as they're sucking all of the energetic and creative life out of you on the way out. It's like they're taking it from both ends. They're taking all your creativity, then literally taking your three ways, taking your vitality, keeping all that you've made, financially, as much of it as they can finesse to do so to themselves, and then consider all the stars that, even celebrities to this day, that have not received their just due. Consider like the Bad Boy situation, where I caught an interview by Aubrey O'Day when she's talking about now Puff is presenting himself to be releasing his royalties to certain artists, not even all, but releasing royalties rightfully to artists at this point in time, after all the millions have already been made. And it seems like this great contract, like, oh yes, they're getting their rights back. But in all actuality, it's for streaming. It's post the era when when money has already been made and spent 10 times over, and ain't no more coming in, because there will never be groups like that to bring in that type of financial return ever again. Not in that way, not without it being going into their pockets where it rightfully belongs in the first place. So he's offering some artists, these deals, but in order to get this so-called your royalties returned, you have to sign an NDA that you'll never badmouth him or any of his companies or affiliations. So ultimately, he's just scrambling for what's left of his character, because he knows that any day now that Surviving Diddy freaking documentary is coming out, and everybody that has been afraid to probably talk up until this point because they were afraid of his influence and afraid of his power is diminished in such a way now, and personal power and influence has risen, that people are no longer afraid to speak about what's true and what's real, what actually happened to them. And that's going to be more damaging to his character and what's left of his business and prestige, than anything that he actually probably did during that time. Now is what matters. He's coming to the other end of the line, where, as I said, it's your character that is all, as I don't think I said it, but it's your character that ultimately is signing checks now. It's your face card, your energetic reference. It's not really so much what you have in the bank anymore, because hell, we don't even know what the dollar is going to do or be today or tomorrow. But your reputation can never go bad, unless, of course, you tarnish it yourself. And those that have real receipts as to who and what Diddy was and did back in them days could do a great deal of damage to his bottom line just simply by telling the truth at this point. So, it's like you see how even that is an example of the harvesting that's happening in a covert way, but by overt tactics, because he's given them something and in exchange for what it appears to be, he's offering them something, but the exchange rate is very imbalanced, because even as Aubrey said, she can go sell her story to, or not even sell, but literally share her story to Netflix or any other streaming service for a documentary and make dividends on the dollar of what he's releasing. She said it's like hundreds of dollars that ultimately the deal turns out to be for streaming revenues, when millions, billions of dollars were made on the creative consciousness and the not consciousness is what I mean to say, the creative influence and intellectual property of the ladies and gentlemen that contributed to that industry and to that label in particular. So he's like trying to cut off, he's trying to cut off their opportunity to thrive in any other regard, especially in a way that might be a detriment to him, by offering them a morsel. And some of the girls, in Danity Kane particularly, have signed the deal already, completely against selling their souls to the system. So it's still happening. It's happening, and there's so much more that I could say about this, but again, it's a little harder to feel sorry for those that have committed themselves to the system than it is for those that have been like sitting ducks and vulnerable and victims to a system that they don't even have any engagement with, i.e. those independent artists that get their property stolen and put on some celebrity, and now they're making hella money for it or getting recognition for it on a bigger stage. And it diminishes the quality of what that independent artist is working hard for, probably 10 times harder to create and maintain with less support to do so. That type of imbalance is time's up for. And of course, the darker energies, like I said, of the energy harvesting, the insurance frauding, the stealing from legacies and estates rightfully and unjustifiably, demise of those within the industry, of course, but certainly luring in new fresh meat, so to speak, new sacrifices into a system that ultimately is an illusion at this point. There's nothing there in the celebrity world, really and truly. It's all being filtered by one big facade, like a big cloud of smoke, like Seven of Cups energy, to just have you come in, choose the best of all the worst options possible, and before you know it, you're drunk with your own ego, if not really so, and drugged by the substance of fame, and you may never recover by the time the system gets through with you. Never. You may never. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, because I said I wasn't going to go in like that, but I have a feeling that more of this is going to be coming up, I guess, by way of just how things get downloaded unto me to share. And it's not for the purposes of condemning the industry or any of the pillars that have held up our society. It's just by way of calling judgment for all to be fair and balanced and justified at this point in time for the greatest good of all. Like I said, for the executives to pay what they weigh and pay what they owe in every regard, not just limited to entertainment. This is everybody. And when I say pay what you weigh and pay what you owe, it's to be accountable for what you're responsible to. Don't take more than what's owed to you. Don't take more than what is justified to be yours. And we know that imbalance has been happening. And for those that are willing participants to release themselves, liberate themselves, and atone for the ways that they have not only contributed to the system as it is, but have helped to create it. There has to be some atonement there, some balance, so celebrities might not get out unscathed, unfortunately, in some regard, particularly those that have sold some aspect of their spirit and soul to be a part of the industry for whatever reason, going against the grain of their own spirit for celebrity, for status, or for wealth, God forbid. There has to be a balance there. And of course, then for those that have been disenfranchised, unbeknownst to them, there most certainly is going to be a balance there. And it's happening even now with the power structure shifting and the wealth being transferred across all factions. Literally, the wealth of energy and the material wealth is being shifted and being rebalanced as it should be, as the universe has ordained for it to be so. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Or the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Whatever which way, it all applies. Okay? So, again, for the third time, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for listening. Take from it what you will. Comment as you feel guided to, if you feel guided to. And yeah, most likely, hopefully, Lord willing, if the creek don't rise, as the old folks used to say, I will definitely see you again next Sunday for another Sunday school session. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a wonderful start, powerful, prosperous start to the week ahead. All right, till next time, peace.